first question is always why? Why go out and do something like this? And to be honest, that never really occurred to us. We just thought, hey, why not? I mean, what's wrong with adventure for the sake of adventure?
Let's go!
The second question is usually, well, how is that even possible? And that takes a bit longer to explain. It started simply with the idea to paddle across Canada, but that notion escalated quickly into a proposed 9-month odyssey. Prep work started in November of 2014 and lasted over a year and spanned across the country from Utah to Minnesota. 270 days worth of food and gear needed to be organized, which was no easy task. But by late December of 2015, we were finally ready to begin. So our plan early on was to paddle up the Atchafalaya River, then onto the Mississippi north through Vicksburg, Memphis, St. Louis, Davenport, and eventually St. Paul, our hometown goal by mid-April. But before we set out, the crew got together in southern Louisiana to put the final touches on everything and then relax, something we thought would be in short supply for the coming months. And we got to enjoy some southern hospitality before setting up our first camp at Burns Point. That moment was pretty surreal, packing up our things the next day and loading the boats. Who knew how many times we'd repeat that process before we got to the Arctic Ocean? Those thoughts faded quickly as we paddled the shoreline of the bayou. Atchafalaya was like nothing we'd ever seen before. Spanish moss decorated these majestic cypress trees and formed the shorelines. Alligators sprawled on muddy banks and soaked in the winter sun. It was exactly the endless summer northerners project on the south, very easygoing. It took us only 8 days to paddle the 160 miles upstream before we reached the Mississippi River. As we portaged between the outflow and inflow channels, the new task at hand started to sink in. We were about to wake up to a whole different animal the next morning.
Goodbye, Atchafalaya. Hello, Mississippi. Mississippi.
The contrast was clear right away. Although we'd seen a few wing dikes before, on the Mississippi they were significantly more challenging. Now we were encountering 20, 30 a day instead of just one or two. And given that paddling upstream naturally forces you to the shoreline, we had to either paddle out and around them, battle the intensified current, or carry the boats one by one across the jumbled piles of rocks that formed the dikes. It really came down to what you'd rather have, a sore back or sore arms. Barge traffic increased as well. These massive river freighters could be pushing over 40 containers 6 wide. We had to navigate the huge waves from their wakes, and when they were docked on shore, they essentially became these giant, unpredictable wing dikes themselves. Despite all this, we had arrived at our first resupply in Vicksburg exactly on schedule after only 2 weeks. In general, resupplies were short, only lasting 24 to 48 hours, and there was plenty of work to fill the days no matter how much effort we had put in before we left. There was no rest for the weary. The weather slowly deteriorated after Vicksburg. What had been nice, warm days interrupted by brief stints of rain or cold became predominantly cool with long, sustained showers that kept everything wet. Winter was on its way. New river features appeared as well. While there were always dikes and barges, shallows and sandbars began to force us out of our boats and into the water. As the temperatures got cooler, it became a warmer strategy to walk them through the shallows or drag them tethered from the shore. But it was not until we were saying goodbye to our second resupply in Memphis early February that the weather truly turned. Freezing conditions became the norm. Fires were routine in camp. The sand that formed the shoreline started to freeze. Ice even formed on the boats as we paddled. When 12 inches of snow fell in mid-February around southern Missouri, we knew winter had arrived in earnest. But the more serious concern was the plummeting temperatures. Below freezing weather started to keep us off the water. The schedule we kept so well began to stretch as we fell behind to the cold, the longest 5 days in St. Louis. It was early March before we saw consecutive days above freezing in the forecast again. We still moved when it was cold, but sometimes we had to be creative. The historic Portage des Sioux was a great example. Some extra river miles up the Missouri out of our way and a 2-mile portage gambit, all to avoid ice above Lock and Dam 26.
The plan was to get around the dam without having to do the portage down there, get in some miles further up the Mississippi, and hopefully avoid the ice. But we ran into a huge field of it. So now we will probably, once we finish the entire portage, have to pull on it. So.
Turns out we just couldn't outrun the ice.
March 9th. Shipping channel. Just had a 9-bagger, 3x3 barge come through. It was a nice open channel from small barges before. This thing came and ripped the whole thing up.
The ice eventually became less of a problem.
Spring break 2015. Woo!
North of St. Louis in the chain of rocks, the Mississippi takes on a whole new look. While the lower Mississippi runs wild and free, the upper is tranquil by comparison, controlled by the locks and dams of the Army Corps of Engineers. We were allowed to use the locks, which saved us a lot of time. It was worth hearing, "You're going the wrong way," over and over again.
Lot 14, rocking and rolling. Almost halfway on the locks.
With clear pools, our daily averages increased from 20 miles to 30 miles, and we quickly made up lost time. By our arrival in Kayak around mid-March, we were back on schedule. The features of the Mississippi shifted yet again as we said our final goodbye to the ice and entered the driftless zone. Here, towering green bluffs make the river resemble a picturesque lake. There were even times navigation was difficult because we couldn't discern any current while being surrounded by islands. We had to keep reminding ourselves we were still on the same river. And then came that fateful day, April 2nd. Windbound the previous day, we decided to wake up at 3 a.m. in order to take advantage of calmer weather and assure ourselves an end to the Mississippi. So, on our left, we have the mighty Mississippi flowing from Lake Itasca. On our right, we have the Minnesota River all the way from Big Stone Lake. And onward we go on the Minnesota. After over 1,700 miles, the Mississippi was behind us, but more upstream travel lay ahead. Plans after the Mississippi got a little more complicated. More upstream on the Minnesota River before crossing the divide, then downstream on the Red River, flat water on Lake Winnipeg, until upstream again on the Saskatchewan, Sturgeon Weir, and Churchill rivers before the trailhead of the Methye portage. We welcomed the prospect of the Minnesota with open arms. It was exciting to be back on a smaller river, but smaller wasn't exactly easier. Flooding left the river riddled with fallen trees, not exactly the best obstacle to have in the water. Yeah. And as it continued to get steeper, rapids were more common, and we faced harder paddling and more portaging. But before we knew it, we were moving up the Little Minnesota, about to reach downstream for the first time at Browns Valley. A short 2-mile portage brought us to a small, unassuming campground at the south end of Lake Traverse. That was a particularly satisfying moment, smiling for photos at the divide with family and friends sharing in the moment. We got our just desserts pretty quick though. The dry conditions that helped to make upstream more manageable months prior turned downstream headwaters into a boneyard. Over a stretch of 30 miles on the Bois des Sioux, we spent more time walking our boats than paddling them. And low water on the Red River, it hardly resembled its normally flooded spring self. We had arrived to find a slow, muddy gauntlet instead. Despite all this, downstream was still downstream. Being able to take a break on the water and move in the right direction, that was something new. And rapids were fun again. Even the ones we couldn't shoot and had to line were enjoyable because it was an excuse to get out of the boats and cool off. But it's always better when you get to stay in the boats. So we're just north of Wahpeton and Breckenridge, just started the Red River and came across our first Whitewater. And it looks like there is a nice little soft trough through the middle.
gonna send a crash boat through and see what happens. The crash boat today will be manned by Dan Flynn and myself, and we'll see what happens.
The best part though was how far we could travel in a day. Our longest, over 65 miles that included some beautiful downtown scenery, put us just a couple days shy of Lake Winnipeg and signaled the end of downstream for the time being. After saying goodbye to our final lock and dam, it was time for a shift in gears. Lake Winnipeg was lion or lamb, sometimes even on the same day. It was shocking to have such perfect weather replaced so quickly with angry waves and freezing temperatures. A snowstorm in late May embodied how fast and drastic the shift in conditions could be. It's day 136, our third day on Lake Winnipeg, and we are windbound. I think it was about 52 km/h winds. I don't know what that adds up to for miles per hour, but it rips up the water pretty well. It's cold too. See my breath? About 7 degrees Celsius for the high. Again, don't have the conversion rate top of my head. It's cold, trust me. Just making lunch and making coffee. Enjoying the shelter.
Pretty impressive though how big the waves can get that fast. I'm excited to do some reading and maybe catch up on some sleep.
But that's the weather. It didn't catch us completely off guard. What did was finding ice. It filled the entirety of giant bays and was completely rotten. We couldn't paddle through it, nor could we walk on top of it. Instead, we had to drag the boats from shore and travel unnecessary miles into bays we could just as easily skip with open water. After enduring weeks of this, we were happy to trade Capricious Lake for Predictable River, even though it meant paddling upstream again. The Saskatchewan was much like the Red, lethargic current and muddy banks, but our spirits were high. Reaching the Saskatchewan by the first week of June meant we were ahead of schedule. It felt as if there weren't any unknowns left, like everything in front of us was clear. The first of the fires we saw was smoke, thickness varying day by day. Sometimes it wasn't much, only a faint dulling of the sky. At its worst, the shorelines across lakes and even rivers were lost. 100 feet away seemed like infinity. People tried to reassure us the fires were only raging farther north and west, but that was exactly where we were headed. Putting the fires out of our minds, we left the Saskatchewan for the Sturgeon Weir. We knew this would be our most challenging upstream travel, and it didn't disappoint.
Whoa, she takes just like the river, grown heavy from the snow. Yeah, she walks up like a woman with a northwest summer glow. Give it up, you know you're not that kind of girl. Let me see those pretty eyes again before we go. My heart's on trial, fine. My heart's on trial, fine. It's gonna be a long night. It's gonna be a long night. It's gonna be a long ride home.
Luckily, we reached the headwaters of the Sturgeon Weir unscathed and found frog portage waiting. We cheated and used the wheeled cart. When life gives you lemons, use the wheeled cart. Portage trails designed for aluminum fishing boats didn't hurt either.
Let me see that pretty face once more before you go. My heart's on trial.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme.
Oh man.
Come on
I
out.
was gonna say you should.
It's bobsled time! Motor off, bud. Good work.
On the other side was the Churchill River and the Canadian Shield. We had no idea the fishing would be as good as it was.
Luke caught a rock. John may have just caught the biggest pick. We've been here for 45 minutes and probably caught somewhere close to 30 plus pickerel. We just keep throwing them back at this point. We said the fishing was going to be good, but this is just outrageous. Every cast. Every cast.
Are there?
big, but I think you're still bigger.
Yeah, I would agree.
By the time we reached Mississippi in late June, the smoke returned in earnest. The fires people had mentioned weeks and miles ago were now becoming a logistical problem and safety concern. 2 days after we left nearby LaRange, the town was evacuated. The trailer park we had visited was destroyed. Other communities were being evacuated across Alberta and Saskatchewan as well, with fires only intensifying in the dry conditions.
So we're on Churchill River, about day 181, July 1st, Canada Day, hell yeah. It's been about a week or so, been in and out of forest fires. Luckily this one's smoldering and not a huge raging inferno like some of our other times, but kind of crazy to stop by and take a look and see what it looks like. It's weird, it's all poofy, all the ground is burnt completely, and if you walk through there, there's spots that are still on fire everywhere. Doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. Talked to some local guys earlier. They said unless it rains a lot, there's going to be fires all summer. So hopefully we can get away from the fires here soon and see the sun and the sky instead of smoke every day. Kind of sucks.
Truly, the threat of fire didn't really hit home until we saw the flames for ourselves. We had grown accustomed to paddling by smoldering ashes and watching plumes of smoke in the distance, but seeing the actual flames was different, some even burning right down to the shore in front of us. While the fires forced us to check in more frequently, they did not stall progress. Soon enough, we were sailing our way into Wallace Bay on Lac La Roche, where the Methye portage begins. Setting up camp for the night was a great way to distract ourselves from the painful day to come. Our plan for the 15-mile portage was simple: pack and strap everything down as best we could, and take it all at once. There was a lot of enthusiasm before we started, and we joked that it probably would not be as bad as we thought.
Team REDISCOVER here at the Methye something. I don't know. It's like this trail goes somewhere.
Speak French.
Yeah. It's Peter Pond guy. I don't know. He's a big deal sometimes. Somewhere did something. Not a big deal at all.
Peter
White guy.
who?
Yeah. So we're gonna walk this trail. It's like 19 kilometers, which is probably for Americans a mile or two, maybe a few hours. I don't know.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
Read this trip report. Said 4 to 6 days. Probably do it in 5 hours. Helicopter just came by, said, "What are you doing here? There's a fire, you're crazy." We're like, "Just go fight it, you know, do your job. We're gonna do ours." So yeah, I'll probably see you in a little bit.
Yeah.
We are repacking our packs right now. We're gonna leave our boats here. We're gonna go hike to the lake and then to the top of the clear water and leave our packs there, come back and get the boats. So we'll just do the double portage now that we're halfway.
So we started here on the portage. Luke and I think, and Jared think we're about somewhere in here, right around in this area. It's probably like 2 miles from the lake, around 6 miles in, 3 hours. Not easy though, not easy at all. A little sore.
Right here, right here.
We'd hardly made it halfway before we decided to do 2 trips instead of 1 and came up with a new strategy for the boats. 2 days and 6 distinct limps later, we had all of our things on the banks of the Clearwater River, ready to head downstream once again. The remainder of the route was simple. Downstream on the Clearwater, Athabasca, and Slave Rivers to the eastern and northern shores of Great Slave Lake, and finally upstream on the Marion and Emile before paddling down the Parent and Coppermine rivers for the big finish at Kugluktuk.
Downstream. Whoop whoop. We made it.
All right.
The Clearwater was supposed to be our first glimpse at challenging downstream whitewater. But months of tough conditions upstream and low water levels throughout combined to make it a calm and quick affair.
Shaka, bro.
We had barely blinked before we were in Fort McMurray. And as we paddled out of the Snai 2 days later, the scale of the trip really started to kick in. Now on the Athabasca River, we continued at a swift and steady pace north through eastern Alberta, albeit accompanied by an abrupt return to lowland river features.
Lake Athabasca.
The Canadian Shield appeared briefly at Lake Athabasca near Fort Chippewa as the river takes its final turns before it meets the Peace and the two form the Slave.
That's a double.
Our only pause was the stretch between Fitzgerald and Fort Smith, an area known by whitewater enthusiasts all around the world. It was remarkable to see the sudden shift from calm, meandering river to the violent torrent it becomes. We were happy just to be in one piece at the other end. We arrived at the mouth of the river onto Great Slave Lake just a few days later, but were windbound in its meandering channels. Luckily, we found a cramped campsite and waited out the wind.
It's pretty windy, and we're taking a break. Brad Delano hooked us up with the weather report via the sat phone, and sounds like the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. are the best paddle hours for the day. So that's what we're gonna do. Taking a nap, resting the bodies. We'll take off here in about 6 hours.
Eventually things started to calm, and we were finally back in the boats, paddling glassy waters into the night.
Full moon. We went fully nocturnal. Rediscover. John's walking around with a gun, eating berries. Everything's out of whack. It's nuts. Even Jared looks happy. He's never happy. Nah, that's not true. He's usually pretty happy. But he's walking around eating berries right now with a smile on his face. Normally this time of night, Jared in the tent, very ready to sleep.
Probably about sleeping.
Great Slave is an incredible area. Our time there was windy, but calm windows opened often enough for us to move daily, just on varied schedules. One last and lengthy resupply in Yellowknife was difficult to leave, regardless of how breathtaking the lake had been. We still had the northern shore to paddle and fewer islands to shelter us. Thankfully, warm weather and favorable winds lasted long enough for us to finish the lake in style. Upstream travel was hardly a daunting prospect at this point. We considered the Marion and Emile less of a challenge and more of a reward for all of our hard work.
Twerk, twerk, I like my.
Amidst all the great fishing and beautiful scenery, we had to keep reminding ourselves we were still in the midst of a long, grueling expedition and that the end was in sight.
Day 223, we're on the Emile River. We just made it under 500 miles to go to the Arctic Ocean. Big day. I remember when we were 500 miles in, thinking, what did I sign up for?
Under 500.
Notice the slant of this hill. It's gonna help me actually. It's gonna help propel the boat.
And speaking of rewards, we were approaching the tundra, a landscape so barren and yet so beautiful. After a series of portages over the final divide at Mesa Lake, the trees disappeared and we were suddenly the tallest things around. It was also the point when the wind and the rain told us we were no longer welcome. That did not stop us from appreciating where we were. Paddling the Parent and Coppermine rivers alone is considered an accomplishment, and for good reason. We saw grizzly bears feasting on blueberries, had some of our own, of course.
The adult male will forage for hours on gifts of the tundra.
Watched caribou graze on sparse tundra grass, shot challenging whitewater situated in pristine, remote wilderness, even through breathtaking canyons. It was incredible.
Under 100 and Rocky Defile right now.
Woo!
Yeah!
What's up, everybody? We have traveled 5,190 miles. That leaves us 40 miles.
40 left.
40 miles to the town of Kayak.
Just finished Sandstone Rapids. Got a little butt wet, drying it out in the wind.
Woo!
Yeah.
Rocking and rolling, having fun in the rain.
20 miles to go. Oh yeah.
Just under 10 miles left to
Single digits! Woo!
Single digits.
5 miles away. We can handle the waves. It's not that bad.
4, 3,
2, 1.
yippee!
But all good things must come to an end. It was a dreary September morning. We battled the wind one last time and made it to Kayak, our final destination. Boats hit the beach, everyone moved to give hugs and handshakes, and then it was like, okay, now what? And with little ado, we packed up our things, hitched a ride from the local RCMP to the airport, and boarded a flight for home. No casual onlooker would have known us for anything more than a weekend warrior vacationing in the far north by the way we acted. The novelty of the great indoors made us a pretty easy group to please. The hardest part was flying hours what took you months to paddle. The third question then is, what was your favorite part? You know, we always assumed it would be places, like what we'd get to see, where we'd get to visit, but we were wrong. It was the people. The people who followed along at home, the people we met along the way, the people who kept us up way too late, and even the people who told us to get up off our asses. It was the generosity, the times we spent together, the encouragement, the support, the community. That was the best part. That is what made this trip so special. That's what we won't ever forget.
day in paradise. Rediscover, buddy. 30. Heads up.
Edit that part out. Notice the nice clean path Winchell's made for us. Continue to make. What happened?
You just see the other tree.
Oh, these tents are awesome.
It can't be more than 3 or 4 miles before you're gonna veer left, stay left. And then there's gonna be a sharp left-hand turn. Adam's supposed to be walking these roads. We got him, oh my God, the road exists, yay!
Did they find Adam?
Yeah, they're like, we see him, oh my God, I see him, oh no! Hey.
Hey.
Don't show this to Patty and Steve.